We have Mr. Bo Eason, and we talk about the four pieces to the puzzle: declaration, preparation, acceleration, and domination. How you can be the best in the world at what you do. That's what Bo is all about, and that is what this podcast is all about today. We're going to be diving into this episode of the Happy Hustle Podcast.
Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Carrie Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model/actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality.
Yee-yee. All right, my man, Mr. Bo Eason, welcome to the Happy Hustle Podcast. I am super stoked to rock the mic with you.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks. Glad to be here.
Yeah, man, this is going to be a fun one. I got to say, you are an inspiration. I mean, you are an NFL former safety. You played 5 years for the Houston Oilers, the San Francisco 49ers. You've competed against some of the greatest players of your generation. You also wrote a one-man play called Runt of the Litter, which was performed on Broadway to rave reviews. Actually, the New York Times called it one of the most powerful plays in the last decade. You then toured that play for over 50 cities, and now it's being adapted into a major motion picture. And now in your third act, you speak and train to some of the most successful people in the world: athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, C-suite execs, etc. But really, you're a husband, you're a father, you're a happy hustler, and you're going to talk to us today about the power of a personal story and really sharing your message to inspire others and ultimately cultivate trust. And I'm excited about this one. I mean, very interesting how you've lived your life out and now how you've taken your experience to really positively impact others. But before we get into all that good stuff, Bo, I'd like to ask, what's something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
Interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm real. And the truth of it is the most. And I think probably the thing that people don't know about me is I'm kind of boring, right? Like I'm. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
And by boring, I mean most of, like my wife or my kids sometimes, like at parties, I don't really talk. Like I just, lean against a wall next to the onion dip, and like everyone thinks like I would be really fun to have at a Super Bowl party. Not really. I'm just kind of sitting back, and that's typically my life until I'm working, right? So if I'm playing in the NFL, if I'm on an NFL field, that's not boring, right? That's all the physical expression that one could possibly have. When I'm writing, when I'm on stage, that is all the expression that I've got. But for the rest of my life, it's kind of leaning against a wall, watching the culture and watching the world and kind of listening to what other people aren't hearing. So a lot of my wife and my kids included, and you guys might think this by the end of this podcast, is like, wow, this guy's just kind of like got a boring life, kind of like me. But when he's working, it's exciting. But when he's not, he's just kind of watching, kind of observing.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most interesting thing about me.
I mean, definitely a curveball. And, if anyone has ever heard Bo speak on stage, you would never think that, because you really captivate audiences. I actually read Brendan Burchard said you're one of the best speakers he's ever seen. And, it's pretty cool because I listened to some of your speeches, and you really know how to tell a story, no question. And I mean, the hero's journey is like the arc of every great story, and you have perfected it. And it's something that I think everyone needs to learn. All the happy hustlers out there listening and watching, you need to learn how to share your story in a way that captivates, that inspires, that educates. And I don't think enough people do. They don't learn the skill.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that people make when sharing their story?
Yeah, that's a great question, Carrie. Just because most people are taught, and you know this term, it was invented several years back, and I've never liked this term, but it became kind of a buzzword or a buzz term, and it's not about me. So people lead a sentence with or a presentation with, "Hey, Carrie, this is not about me," and then they go on to talk about them, right?
Mm.
So it's
Yeah.
just, and so everyone says that, and
Yeah.
everyone does that, and they don't want to share themselves.
Mm.
But now we live in a world where trust is in single digits. And that goes for every institution, whether it's medical, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's leadership, whether it's sports,
Mm.
whether it's politics. No one trusts anymore. And
Mm.
they do polls on this, and it's never been this low. So when most people are depressed by that news, I always say to the people that I work with or my family, I say, okay, guys, this is our opportunity. This is our chance. If trust is indeed at its lowest level it's ever been in the history of our planet, then we're going to take advantage of the eroded trust,
Mm.
because there is one group of people who can rebuild eroded trust over time, and that is the storyteller,
Mm.
because no one can refute story. And most people think stories are all happy stories. Well, most happy stories start at the bottom, at not a happy story, like somebody
True.
who has to overcome something. So, for example, if you and me, Carrie, and all of us on this podcast today decide, hey, let's put all our money in and let's make a movie. And we want this movie to make a lot of money at the box office. We want everyone to see it and everyone to watch it. Well, say that movie's about climbing Mount Everest. So you, Carrie, me, and all the rest of us, we're going to climb Mount Everest. Well, where do you think the first frame of that film, what do you think that first scene is going to be? It's not at the top of Mount Everest with a flag.
Yeah.
Because there's no there's no story to tell now.
Yeah.
It's over. And human beings don't care. It's funny. We think we care, but we don't care about who gets to the top of Mount Everest. What we do care about is the person standing at the bottom of Mount Everest and looking at each other going, there's no way in hell we can do this.
Mm.
Some of us are going to die. Probably the chances of any of us getting to the top is zero. That's what we love.
Mm.
That's what we're attracted to. And that's the movies and stories or books that we follow and that we love. So every great story, especially for entrepreneurs, the
Yep.
great stories aren't your successes. The great stories are where you started from the bottom and you had no money and no one was helping you, and you didn't have the smarts to do it on your own, and you have to figure things out for yourself.
Mm.
Well, that's what every human being on this planet connects to the
Yep.
most. So if we do live in a very low trust environment, then who gets to rebuild it? Who gets all the credit? Who gets the leadership muscle? Who gets people giving them money to build their company based on a story? It's the person who can start at the bottom, which is us, because
Mm.
we get trust because we've started at the bottom. No, that's why they never make movies about somebody who was born rich. They don't, unless the movie bankrupts that person. Then we like that movie. Then we're like, yeah, okay, this dude's like us now. Now he's
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
gutter like
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
And that's what we connect to. And
Mm.
that's the only way, and it's the quickest way, Carrie, to build trust in a low trust environment, which is
Mm.
where we live right now. So you and I actually have this huge opportunity in front of us to go, okay, what's my next endeavor? Do I want to make a movie? Do I want to write a book? Do I want to be a coach? Do I want to build a company? Whatever it is, if you start at your lowest point, that's where you start. You go, oh, I don't know shit about this. I don't know anything. My first dream was to be the best safety in the world, this position in football. And I was only 9 years old, right? So I didn't really know how to do it, but I didn't care. I just made the story. I made a declaration. And I made the declaration, Carrie, because, you know, I remember at 9 years old, they were talking about the Declaration of Independence in school. And I was like, well, that's kind of crazy, right? These founding fathers write a story of freedom, right? And you and me didn't write that. Like, they wrote it 250 years ago. But you and me and all of us on this podcast, we all bring that Declaration of Independence, in this case, we all bring that story to life by playing the characters of freedom and the way we live our lives. So I always thought, well, shoot, if I want to do something great, if I want to be the best safety in the world, if I want to be the best playwright in the world, if I want to be the best husband in the world, then I'm going to make a declaration. I'm going to write a story that declares what I want to be the best at. And then I don't have to follow steps. All I have to do is be that best safety. I have to rehearse it. I have to become it at the age of 9. So that's what I did. And no one thought I was going to be the best safety at the age of 9, even me. But I just followed and I became what I thought the best safety, how they would behave. So I ate what I thought the best safety would eat. I trained like I thought the best safety should train. And then as the years went by and I started to get muscle and I started to get bigger and I started to grow into my dream, one day, so many years later in 1984, ESPN goes, oh, the best safety in the NFL draft is this guy named Bo Eason. Well, I had known that, Carrie, for so many years. No one else knew it. No one knew it until it happened. But I was being it all those years. So now just think about your own dreams and your own life. Like whatever company you want to build, whatever marriage you want to have, you get to declare it and then you get to rehearse it. You get to be it on day one. So I don't have a to-do list for you. I'm not here going, okay, if you want to be the best husband, you got to do A, B, and C. No, you better start being the best husband, whatever that is in your mind, in the world, not what the world says about the best husband, what you say about it. So then it's almost like putting on a production. It's almost like putting on a play. I'm going to dress like the best husband. I'm going to dress like the best safety. I'm going to dress like the best playwright. I'm going to walk like the best playwright. I'm going to be, and that is how simple I have created these brands for myself, was just being a child and being creative and just going, I want to be the best at this, not second best. I don't want to be second best. I don't like that. I don't think, think about the Olympics here are coming up, right? So think about when you were a kid and if someone can prove to me that this sentence ever came out of a 7-year-old's mouth, I'll change my training. I'll change my train of thought. But here's the sentence. Mom, Dad, hi, I know I'm only 7, but here's my ultimate dream. I want to win the gold medal in the Olympics. Okay, so no one has ever, many people have said that. No 7-year-old has ever said this. Mom, Dad, I'm 7. Here's my ultimate dream. I want to win the bronze medal in the Olympics. So that sentence has never been said. People win the bronze, but no one declared it. No one wanted it. They were given a bronze because they lost the gold or the silver. So why don't we, if no kid ever said that, why do we say it? Why do we go, you know what? I just kind of want to be a mediocre podcaster. No
Mm.
one's ever said that,
Yeah.
but people become that. Why not, if your dreams are going to come true because of this declaration that you're living out, if they're going to come true, and we all know they are, then why not be the best? Why not be the gold medalist instead of the bronze medalist? Well, the only reason we're trying to be the bronze medalist is just to save ourselves some face, to save ourselves, like, oh, maybe I don't have to work as hard if I'm the bronze medalist.
Mm.
No, it's just as freaking hard. You're gonna lose that gold, and they're gonna give you a bronze, and you're gonna be proud of it, but it's
Mm.
not what you originally wanted. That's how I've kind of run, my life. And I never forget one thing, Carrie, and then I'll shut up. That when I was several years ago, when the play was opening in New York City, the New York Times came to interview me because, and I'll never forget what the writer said, what the writer of the New York Times said to me. He said, NFL player turn Broadway playwright. And he said, I've never written that sentence before, and I'm probably never going to write it again. And I always thought that's weird to me, only because he's right. It is true. We think if you reach a level like in the NFL, if you're an NFL player, that's your career and that's one thing that you can do. But it's no fair for you to be great at anything else,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So no one dreams of anything else. Like, say you built a business and you sold it for $1 gazillion. Well, that's your little thing, like that's your success story. So you don't
Mm.
get to have another one. But if
Mm-mm.
people just realize that, wow, I did sell that company, I did build it, and I sold it for $1 gazillion, but now I want to be this or that. Well, all you have to do is do that, pretty much the same principles, because the principles of being the best safety in the NFL are exactly the same principles that it takes to be the best playwright on Broadway. But people don't put those two things together because they're kind of so far removed from each other.
Mm.
But I think that's the most important thing today, that we could actually live into reality, is you've already reached the top. I mean, the people that follow this podcast are like people who dream and people who bring those dreams into existence and succeed at the entrepreneurial level. Well, if you can do it once in one field, you can be the best ballerina if you want, because the principles are exactly the same. You just
Mm.
have to follow them and know that they're there.
Mm.
That way, instead of having one occupation during our lifetime, you and I can actually have five or six, depending on how much we want to, what we want to be, what we want to
Mm.
become.
Yeah.
So I'll hit the pause button, Carrie, and let you mull that one over.
Yeah, you're good. I mean, a lot to unpack there. I mean, the principles definitely are the same. And I would venture to say discipline is a part of the principles, right?
Yeah,
Focus, hard work, some of these core components of achieving anything. Um, what I really appreciate is how you declared what you want. And I don't think enough people do that. Like, it's, as a bow hunter, if I'm shooting my bow and I don't have a clear target, I'm going to miss every time. But yet
yeah,
people, they actually don't have a clear target in their life, so they end up reacting to life's variables rather than, really writing their own story. They're reading it. And
yeah,
and that is, it's the sad reality. I don't think like goal setting is even taught well in school, maybe even at all, right? Um, but the question I have, so after you declare, you talk about in your book and I want to get into it. There's no plan B for your A game, how to be the best in the world at what you do. And you talk about, after you make that declaration, then you talk about preparation, like how you can actually make it happen. And then you get into acceleration and domination. So let's get into just some tactical stuff for the happy hustlers out there. You make this declaration. Okay, this is what you want to achieve. Then it's time to focus on the preparation. Walk us through that step, if you will, and then maybe we can kind of get into the other two following.
Yeah. Well, preparation is always like eating your vegetables, right? So Bobby Knight has this great quote, the famous basketball coach, and he always said, everybody has the will to win, but almost nobody has the will to prepare to win. And so to win, that it's all preparation behind the scenes. To make these declarations come into existence, you have to prepare your whole environment for that to come true. So the reason the book is called There's No Plan B for Your A Game is that most people have all these distractions in their life, and that's in their environment. So their TV's on and it's playing the news media. They've got social media over here. They've got kids wanting this over here. They've got this distraction over here. Well, you got to clean up that environment, and that's preparation. So the reason the book is called There's No Plan B is there can't be another option. There's only one option, the best, the top, the gold medal. Because only when that happens, and you have to prepare your environment for this, meaning you got to clean it up. So if you and me wanted to be the leanest dudes on the planet, right? So that would be fun, right? Do you think it's a good idea to have a chocolate cake in the middle of my kitchen just sitting there on the counter? That's called environmental disaster, right? That has to be cleaned up because you can't fight the chocolate cake. You're going to lose the battle one of these days, one of these weeks. And then but we do that in our life. We don't clean up our environment in our lives. It's all messy. Say we wanted to run a marathon, and first thing every morning, we had to wake up, throw our socks on and our tennis shoes on and our running, and we got to hit the pavement. Well, what if you have to look for your running shoes all over the house? What if you're don't have any clean socks? That's what makes people in their dreams, these little options of being distracted by their shoes not in the right place, their socks not in the right place, the time that has to be cut out of the schedule where you have to get 10 miles in. That's the preparation piece. So you just clean up your environment. You clean up everything. It's kind of like the environment in Montana. It has a certain environment, right? That makes you healthy and clean, and it makes you see vast things. Like the environment of Montana, which I've never even been to Montana, but I'm only going by the movies and my friends that live there. Yeah, that. So that's expansive, right? It's expansive. So I live close to LA. So when you're in the middle of LA, that is not expansive. That is the opposite of expanse. So your mind can't grow, right? Your mind can't see in the distance. It can't breathe the fresh air. So you have to build an environment equal to you being the gold medalist. That's what I call preparation.
Yeah. Man, I love that.
And you just have no options. Me being the best safety in the world, it took me 16, 18 years, right, to get there. The whole journey of the 16, 18 years, you guys, I was off course. Most of the time I was off course. But that's the nature of the beast. You're always off course. Your job, my job in this case, was to right the ship. That's it. Just right the ship, because you're constantly going to be distracted by, Bo, hey, do you want to go to a party? And I have to say to myself, okay, I can either go to this party or I can be the best safety in the world. This is as a teenager, right? Hey, Bo, do you want to go to the prom? Okay, if I go to the prom, does that get me closer to being the best safety in the world, or does it get me further away from being the best safety in the world. So that's the declaration answers every question that me as a youngster had to grow up with. So, Bo, do you want to go to the prom? If that gets me closer to being the best safety, yes. If it gets me further from being the best safety in the world, no. And so your declaration answers every question for you. So think about that in your own life right now. Think about that. Like people go, oh, Bo, we're having a Super Bowl party. Of course you love the Super Bowl. You want to come over to our party? And I have to say to myself, I have to say to the host, who I might like, I have to say to them, no, only because my declaration is answering this question for me, not Bo. My declaration has precedence over my voice. So being the best playwright or going to a Super Bowl party, no, this isn't helping me. I'm going to say, my declaration is going to say no. So you know how, so I make my kids do this. It is hard. Yeah. It is hard. Does that social media actually help you achieve your dreams or no? You better tell me right now. Does going on this date help you or hurt you as far as your dreams are concerned? Does hanging out with this friend get you closer to your dream or further from your dream? You notice how the central premise here, Carrie, is I always go back to simplicity, to the Declaration of Independence was simple to me as a kid. These dudes in wigs wrote it, yet I bring it into existence. How could this be? What if I wrote my own declaration and then this is going to be bad English, but I became that declaration. My behavior is such that I am that declaration. And there's no other option. So I'm just living out a story that I created instead of the culture at hand writing a story for me. Like, Bo, here's the cultural story. Hey, Bo, you're not big enough to be the best safety in the world, and you're not fast enough, and you didn't come from a family of great athletes, and no one from our town has ever been a pro athlete. So that's the story you're to live out for the rest of your life. So that's the story they gave me. I just wrote my own because I don't like that story. I don't want to live that story. And so and now put ourselves in today's world where the news media, social media, culture is telling us a story that we're supposed to be mediocre. And we're supposed to not trust what our eyes see. And we're supposed to not trust our own instincts, the instincts that have made us survive all this time. They're now telling us those are phony, and you don't believe your eyes and don't believe your gut feeling. That's what our world is telling us. So you notice how we always go back to this. We always go back to, I am taking control of my life through a story, through a declaration, which I'm then going to put on the costume for, and I'm going to walk like that character. I'm going to talk like that character, and I'm going to be the best playwright in the world until 20 years later, the New York Times goes, oh, this is the most powerful play in the last decade. I'm not waiting for them. I'm living it. And I want everyone on here, if you get one thing, it's that we are not victims to our own life. We get to control the story of our life, and we get to live into it. And that's cool.
Yeah, man, that is cool. I mean, it's something, for lack of a better term, this victim culture, I think, rewards, people who victimize themselves, sadly. And we have to take accountability for our reality. Like right now, the number in your bank account, everyone out there watching, listening, that is a direct relation to the value you bring to the marketplace, truly. And it is what it is, right? Your relationship with your spouse, that's all based on your past actions. You know, how you look in the mirror naked. That's also based on your past actions. You have to take accountability. Sure, there's factors, right? And, you know, one thing that always helps me is there's someone out there who has done more with less, right? There's always someone. You think your story was tough? Well, there's someone out there who's done more with less. Like Bo, you know, he became the best safety in the world, and you were called the runt of the litter, right? I mean, you got cut from your college team, and you've still persevered. And it's just being responsible, being accountable. This is a through line that I pray all the happy hustlers out there really latch onto and take full accountability. Declare what you want, prepare for what you want, and then you talk about acceleration. You know, how will you find the motivation to actually the motivation to achieve your goal? Let's stay there for a beat and really walk the happy hustlers through that part.
Yeah, that, you know, you can pass everybody, which is why I call it that section acceleration. You can pass everybody, and it doesn't look like you're passing them. There's an optical illusion that happens in the Olympics. So if you're going to watch the Olympics here in the next weeks, you're going to see sprinters, you're going to see swimmers, you're going to see people trying to go faster than everybody else. Well, here's what you're seeing. Most people see this. Oh, that guy's just faster. He's running right past everyone else. That is not true. That's not what you're actually seeing. Isn't it weird to say this?
Mm-hmm.
So if you see Usain Bolt, who's the fastest man ever recorded, he starts off kind of slow, and then at the end, it looks like he's passing everybody. It looks like Michael Phelps is passing everybody in the swimming pool.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. Really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode.
That is not actually what you're seeing. They are actually decelerating at a slower rate than the rest of the competitors. Crazy, right? Think about this. So Usain Bolt's running the 100 meters. At a certain point, you lose your top speed, like maybe it's 50 meters. 50 meters into the 100-meter race, you have now reached top speed. Well, once you reach top speed, now every step after that is a deceleration. Now you're slowing down. So is everybody else. But what I mean by acceleration is you decelerate at a slower pace than the rest of everybody. And it looks like you're just smoking them. You're just passing them. That's why, that's why acceleration is actually decelerating at a slower pace, meaning your diet, meaning your environment, meaning every conversation you have. I don't want to decelerate, right? So I've reached a certain age where I am, on the wrong end of 50, right? So I now want to arrest that deceleration of aging so that I can have a bigger impact as I age instead of the opposite.
Mm.
right? So there are certain things you have to do to be great at lessening your deceleration, which is, diet, which is exercise, which all these things that clean up your life so that you can do that, so that you can
Mm.
now be Michael Phelps. You can now be Usain Bolt. You're not faster than everybody else. You're not. They just decelerate quicker.
Mm.
If you think about that in your business.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And people always get fooled by athletics. They always say, wow, that person moves really fast. And it's true. But what is really happening is they just can go slower at a slower pace. They
Mm.
slow down at a slower pace.
Yeah.
Think about that in your life, in your marriage, in your raising your kids.
Yeah.
It's a really cool thing to think about. That's
Yeah. And
acceleration.
that actually makes a ton of sense, that paradigm shift of deceleration. And I want to actually stay here and relate it to the happy hustle and burnout. And it might
Yeah.
seem like a questionable segue, but let me tie it together. See, I burnt out as a tech entrepreneur early on because I was, like you said, trying to smoke everybody and get this big exit and have all this quote unquote success, the ego, the status, the power, and I burnt out, right? And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, this grinder mentality, they just think, I'm going to work on the weekends. I'm going to, kind of Gary Vee was preaching to the choir on this. Now he's changed his tune recently, but the truth is that's unsustainable. It's unsustainable to work and live in that grinder mentality. And I believe there's a better way to do it, the way to put the happy in your hustle. And that's what the whole show and the book and everything is about, is how do we actually systematically harmonize ambition, right? Crushing it
Yep.
personally and professionally, but also well-being, right? Being joyful, being fulfilled, being impactful and inspiring. So my question to you is, how do we take this declaration, this preparation, and this acceleration, towards our dreams and goals, but not burn out in the process?
Yeah. Great question. I think this right here, you guys, really the key to the kingdom about this, this whole burnout thing. You hear this all the time. I'm just fatigued. It is a being conversation. And we've had a being conversation ever since we started this. We started rolling the cameras here. Because I think our world is about to-do lists.
Mm.
And that's, you and me have achieved a high level. Everyone on this podcast has achieved a certain high level by having a to-do list and doing and achieving things, right?
Mm.
I think with that, we got to bankrupt that. We got to put that to sleep. And we
Mm.
have to change to the being conversation. What is your behavior?
Mm.
What are you being today? Are
Mm.
you because once you begin to be something, you don't have to wait until you achieve something. For example, when I was 9, I said, I want to be the best safety in the world. Now, that day, Bo's little brain at 9 years old, I started rehearsing, if you will, what it is to be the best safety in the world. Like, how did best safeties, did they do their homework or no homework? Do they date girls, or do they, just get single-minded focus? Not what they do, what they are being. Because there's things to do. I have to run, I have to lift weights, I have to do all these things, right? But what am I being? My son works with a quarterback coach. He works with a lot of NFL players. And if you look at quarterbacks of the history of the NFL, my brother was one of them. A couple of my roommates were a couple of them. It's never what they do. It is never what they do. It's who they are.
Mm.
It's what they're being. And if you look at the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady, right? Not a great athlete, didn't necessarily do the right things to be the greatest quarterback of all time, doesn't have the strongest arm, doesn't have the fastest legs, doesn't have a lot of things, but he outbehaved everybody. He outbehaved every quarterback for 103 years. Think about that, you guys. Think about that in your own life.
Mm.
This dude, no one wanted, which is the story of every great quarterback. No one ever wants the great quarterbacks. Why do you think that is? Why do they all have the same story? Because it's hard to recognize who someone is being. They want to take a stopwatch and go, oh, you're this fast. Oh, you can throw a ball that far. That's a good measurement. We can, bet the house on that. Those are inaccurate, which is why they blow it all the time. If they would just call me real quickly and say, Bo, who should we choose? I say, you choose the one who is behaving like the leader of your franchise, which you're going to pay the most money to. And they're going to make everyone around them excellent. They're going to raise the standard. That's who they're going to be. They're going to be the standard bearer of your franchise, of your city, right? Of your city, of your state. That's what they're going to be. That's what Joe Montana was being. That's what Tom Brady is being. That's what Patrick Mahomes is being. They're not. They don't. I guarantee you guys, don't do this. Don't get stuck in this trap. Those three dudes I just mentioned do not make a list of what to do today. That's two. That will burn your ass out. They will be done with the NFL in a year because people will be smacking them in the face so hard. They're not making a to-do list and then doing it all. They are being a certain thing. Now, you and I have to outbehave all our competitors. I had to be. Here's the greatest example. So when I was 21 or 22, they announced that I'm the best safety, right? But I knew it for 17 years before that. I was being it. Now, I didn't have the strength or the size to be it yet, but I was being what I thought the best safety should be. And then all of a sudden, 17 years later, ESPN announces it. So this is what's going to occur in your life. The world is always behind you. They're always late to the party. You're living out a story, a declaration that you invented. There is no such thing as burnout in that case. You don't have to do anything but be and behave like the best in the world behave. So Michael Phelps has won 20 gold medals, you guys. Guess how, is he the fastest swimmer? I don't know. Is he the most dedicated? I don't know. Is he the most disciplined? I don't know. All I know is he behaved like a person that wins 20 gold medals. Now, that equals discipline, right?
Yeah.
That equals training. That equals all that stuff. But if you start with discipline, it's kind of a pain in the ass. You're like, well, shit, what does that even look like?
Yeah.
So to be, you're being this already, you guys. You already know how to do this. Guess how? Guess why? Guess how I know? Because dudes wrote the Declaration of Independence 250 years ago, and then somehow today,